Welcome to Conviction and Controversy, a space for reason, conscience, and honest reflection.
The Stoic mindset: do good, keep faith, endure everything. There are moments in life when everything inside you falls quiet, not because you found peace, but because something has hit you so hard that your mind hasn't figured out how to respond yet. In that strange, unsettling stillness, you see yourself without filters or excuses. Not the curated version of yourself, but the real, unguarded one underneath. And I think that's where the Stoic mindset begins, right there in the raw aftermath of impact. When people talk about Stoicism like it's just about being tough, they miss the heart of it by miles. Toughness is superficial. Anyone can act hard until life pushes past the surface. Stoicism isn't hardness, it's honesty. It's the courage to face reality without letting fear or pain rewrite your character. It's the willingness to say, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is unfair. But I will not let it turn me into something smaller. Victimhood doesn't start with a dramatic decision. It begins quietly with the subtle whisper of a thought. Why is this happening to me? And that thought feels justified when you're hurting. But if you feed it, it grows. It becomes the lens through which you interpret every setback. Suddenly, everything feels personal. Everything feels targeted, and everything feels like proof that the world is against you. Stoicism exists to intercept that story before it becomes your identity. Marcus Aurelius wrote over and over again that life isn't plotting against you. Events unfold with no regard for our preferences. And the most dangerous thing we can do is personalize the impersonal. Because the moment you do that, you surrender the part of your life the Stoics valued most: your agency, your ability to choose your response, your ability to be the author of your own character, even when the circumstances are merciless. Epictetus understood this more than anyone. Born into slavery, injured, abused, denied autonomy, he had more reason than most to embrace a narrative of victimhood. But he refused it. He said, "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus can overpower my will." That wasn't arrogance. It was dignity. It was the quiet rebellion of someone who understood that the only true freedom is the freedom of the mind. Seneca approached hardship with a philosophical tenderness. He didn't deny pain. He didn't pretend grief was easy. But he believed hardship was the pressure that reveals the shape of your soul. Fire tests gold, he said. Adversity tests the brave. Hardship doesn't just expose your character, it can refine it. It can sharpen you. It can deepen you. But only if you choose to meet it with responsibility instead of resentment. And then there's Zeno, whose entire philosophical journey began with disaster. A shipwreck destroyed everything he owned. Everything. But instead of collapsing, he used that moment as the turning point of his life. Imagine the strength it takes to look at the ruins of your old life and say, "Good. Now I'm free to build something better." That mindset is at the core of Stoicism, the belief that even devastation can become direction. For most of my life, I thought doing good required feeling good. I thought virtue needed stability, inspiration, or clarity. But the truth is, goodness is most important when life is hardest. When grief makes everything heavy. When stress makes you short-tempered. When uncertainty makes you afraid. When betrayal makes you want to close your heart. Stoicism taught me that goodness matters most in the moments where it costs you the most. Victimhood, on the other hand, is effortless. It asks nothing from you except surrender. It offers the illusion of safety and the comfort of sympathy. But long-term, it steals your strength. It replaces your agency with helplessness. And before long, you forget you ever had a choice. Victimhood doesn't comfort you, it confines you. Stoicism exists to pull you out of that emotional quicksand. The Stoic path puts your character back into your hands. It reminds you that pain is inevitable, but corruption is optional. You can suffer without becoming bitter. You can lose without collapsing. You can hurt without turning cruel. And you can experience injustice without surrendering your commitment to justice. That's not just philosophy, that's power. Marcus knew this deeply. "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," he wrote. Not because he didn't feel anger or grief, but because he understood how easily we become the very thing that wounded us. The world is full of people who let their pain reshape them into something harsh, cynical, and resentful. Stoicism asks you to resist that gravitational pull. I've lost that battle before. There were times when pain pushed me toward bitterness, times when anger colored my decisions, times when fear made me pull away from the best parts of myself. And every time I drifted, even when I justified it, I felt something internal go out of alignment. Stoicism taught me to notice that misalignment, not with shame but with clarity. It taught me to return. Stoicism doesn't say, don't feel. It says, don't let your feelings take the wheel. Emotion is information. It is an instruction. Anger signals that something mattered. Fear signals that something is uncertain. Sadness signals that something was meaningful. But you decide the meaning, you decide the response. Epictetus said the only thing you truly control is your attitude toward events. That's where freedom starts. Seneca believed that life doesn't get easier. You get stronger, not because you ignore your pain, but because you learn how to hold it without letting it deform you. Hardship becomes a forge. Discipline becomes a shield. Perspective becomes a compass. When you face difficulty with a grounded mind, you slowly become the kind of person future adversity cannot overwhelm. Zeno insisted that virtue is the only real good, not success. Not comfort, not reputation, virtue, the courage to do what's right, the discipline to stay true to yourself, the wisdom to know what's in your control, the justice to treat others fairly even when life feels unfair to you. When you place virtue above comfort, suffering can't break you. It can only shape you. And hardship will come, it always does. Pain arrives without an invitation. Loss finds you when you least expect it. And disappointment has a way of slipping into even the happiest seasons of life. But Stoicism teaches that you are not defined by what happens to you. You are defined by what you choose after it happens. I've learned more about myself in suffering than I ever learned in calm. I've discovered the contours of my character in moments I didn't think I could handle. And I've realized something important. Pain is a teacher with brutal honesty. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't cater to your illusions. It shows you without mercy who you actually are. And that truth, painful as it is, can set you free. The Stoics didn't romanticize suffering, but they understood its value. They understood that growth often hides in discomfort, that wisdom grows in the cracks created by heartbreak, that strength is built under pressure, and that purpose is discovered not in comfort, but in challenge. Pain may be unavoidable, but progress is optional. Doing good in the face of suffering is the purest expression of strength. It's the refusal to let your wounds dictate your behavior. It's the decision to remain aligned with your values when misalignment would be easier. Marcus held on to that alignment while ruling an empire under relentless strain. And he did it not through perfection, but through daily recommitment. Stoicism isn't about never falling. It's about always returning. When Marcus writes to himself, "Begin again," he isn't being poetic, he's giving himself instructions. This mindset isn't about never breaking stride. It's about regaining your footing every single time hardship knocks you sideways. Virtue isn't a straight line. It's a cycle of noticing, correcting, and returning. And that's where Stoic faith comes in, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in virtue, faith in goodness, faith in the human ability to rise above suffering. Faith that your actions matter even when the world doesn't reward them. Faith that your character is worth protecting. Faith that doing good shapes the world in ways you cannot always see. Seneca once wrote that the person who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than they need to. He wasn't saying suffering is imaginary. He was saying the mind multiplies pain when it clings to fear and resentment. The Stoic mindset cuts through that mental noise. It asks you to carry only what is real, nothing added, nothing imagined, nothing dramatized. Just the truth and the strength to endure it with dignity. Dignity is a word we don't use enough anymore. Not pride, not ego, but dignity. The sense that who you are on the inside matters more than what's happening around you. Marcus called this the inner citadel, the fortified part of yourself that hardship cannot conquer unless you open the gates. And that citadel grows stronger every time you refuse to let suffering turn you into someone you don't respect. Doing good in the middle of hardship isn't about being saintly or perfect. It's about maintaining alignment. When the world pushes you toward anger, you choose patience. When disappointment tempts you toward bitterness, you choose clarity. When fear urges you to retreat, you choose courage. Those choices aren't always dramatic. Often they happen quietly in small moments that no one else witnesses. But they accumulate, and over time they shape your character. And the truth is, character is everything. The Stoics believed it was the only thing you truly own. Wealth can vanish. Health can fade. Relationships can shift. Reputation can crumble. But character, your choices, your values, your inner posture is yours alone. It's the one part of your life the world cannot forcibly take. It can only be surrendered. Zeno's entire philosophy was built on this idea. When he lost everything in that shipwreck, he didn't just lose possessions, he lost the version of himself that depended on them. But in that loss, he discovered something unbreakable, the ability to choose virtue regardless of circumstance. He realized that if he anchored his identity in character, no storm could destroy him again. Epictetus took that even further. He believed freedom was not the absence of restraint, but the presence of self-mastery. No man is free who is not master of himself, he said. And mastery wasn't about dominance or control. It was about discipline over your reactions, your desires, your impulses, your narratives. The disciplined mind cannot be enslaved, even when the body is. Seneca warned that more people are enslaved by their own thoughts than by external conditions. Worry, envy, fear, resentment, these are chains people put on themselves. Stoicism breaks those chains by shifting your focus inward, toward the part of life you can actually influence. When you align your judgments with reality, your actions with virtue, and your intentions with responsibility, the weight of suffering becomes manageable. Marcus, ruling an empire, returned to this truth constantly. His journals are full of reminders to himself. Stay humble, stay rational, stay kind. He never pretended he was above emotion. He simply practiced the discipline of not letting emotion carry him away. He reminded himself that everything external is temporary, but the quality of his decisions would define his legacy. And that's what this Stoic mindset offers us today. Not indifference, but depth. Not suppression, but clarity. Not coldness, but grounded strength. It teaches you to feel without being ruled by feeling, to suffer without creating an identity around suffering, to grieve without collapsing into despair. Stoicism doesn't remove pain. It removes panic. When life hits hard, the instinct is to withdraw into yourself, to isolate, to protect your wounds. But protection becomes imprisonment if you never step back out. Stoicism asks you to open again, to engage, to try. Not because it's easy, but because engagement is how you heal without losing yourself. It's how you prevent hardship from making your world small. And doing good, choosing virtue in the midst of pain is part of that healing. The Stoics believed that virtue aligns you with the structure of the universe. That doing good is not just morally right, but psychologically stabilizing. It anchors you when everything else feels unstable. It keeps your soul from drifting into resentment. It keeps your purpose intact. Marcus wrote, "If it is endurable, then endure it, simple, direct, but not shallow." He wasn't romanticizing suffering. He was refusing to catastrophize it. Endurance doesn't mean passivity. It means strength. It means refusing to let every discomfort become a crisis. It means trusting your own resilience. And resilience grows when you choose responsibility instead of blame. Responsibility is the heart of Stoicism. Not because everything is your fault, but because your response is always your choice. You may not control what happens to you, but you absolutely control what you do next. Your next thought, your next word, your next step. And the accumulation of those choices becomes your destiny. Victimhood, on the other hand, erodes responsibility. It convinces you that you are powerless, that your story is dictated by external forces, that your only role is to survive whatever the world throws at you. It gives you permission to stop trying. But victimhood is a lie told by pain. It feels true in the moment, but it steals the very strength you need to overcome the moment. The Stoic mindset says, refuse that lie. Refuse the posture of helplessness. Refuse the narrative that your suffering is destiny. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to feel lost. But you are not allowed to decide that pain is the end of your story. Pain is a chapter, not a conclusion. Seneca wrote that the one thing no person can escape is themselves. You carry your mind everywhere you go. And if your mind is trained through philosophy, reflection, and discipline, you can carry peace into places that would break the untrained mind. But if your mind is chaotic, reactive, and consumed by victimhood, even peaceful places will feel hostile. That's why the Stoics practiced daily introspection. They examined their thoughts like a gardener examines soil. They removed weeds, resentment, envy, entitlement. They watered virtues, courage, patience, honesty, and they paid attention to what grew. That kind of mindful discipline doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger. And strength changes everything. Strength isn't bravado. It isn't loud, it isn't performative. The strongest people I've ever known carried their strength quietly. They carried it in the way they treated others when they were stressed, in the way they stayed patient when life demanded more from them than they felt able to give, in the way they kept choosing goodness even when goodness wasn't returned. That's Stoic strength. Zeno believed that adversity is the raw material of greatness. Without pressure, you do not grow. Without challenge, you do not mature. Without loss, you do not learn what truly matters. Hardship reveals your foundation. And if your foundation is virtue, if you are anchored in courage, wisdom, justice, and discipline, then no storm can destroy you. It may shake you, but it cannot uproot you. The Stoic refusal to be a victim is not denial. It's protection. Protection of your character. Protection of your clarity. Protection of your identity. When you refuse to let hardship define you, you create space for growth. You create space for transformation. You create space for meaning. And meaning is the one thing suffering cannot take from you without permission. Marcus believed that meaning was found in service to others, service to the world, service to the best parts of yourself. And when you connect your suffering to something larger than your own comfort, the weight becomes easier to carry. Because you're not carrying it alone. You're carrying it with purpose. Stoicism isn't a rejection of emotion. It's a reconciliation with it. It allows you to feel deeply without drowning. It allows you to love fiercely without fear of loss. It allows you to confront adversity without collapsing into despair. It gives you a way to live as a full human being, honest, flawed, resilient, and grounded. And that's the Stoic mindset I keep returning to. The determination to do good and to keep faith, no matter what hardships or suffering I endure. The refusal to let victimhood take root. The commitment to respond to life with courage instead of collapse, clarity instead of panic, virtue instead of resentment. Because at the end of the day, suffering will shape you. But you get to decide what it shapes you into. If you choose courage, responsibility, and goodness, especially when it's hardest, then hardship doesn't win. You do. Not through avoidance, but through transformation. Not by escaping pain, but by rising above it. This is the Stoic vow. Do good. Keep faith, endure hardship without losing yourself, and become someone suffering cannot break.
Thanks for spending a few minutes thinking this through with me. If you value honest reflection, subscribe and start here next. Conviction and Controversy, a voice for honest reflection.